Tonight, our coverage as an investigation reveals Canada Revenue Agency paid millions of dollars in fraudulent refunds after being hacked. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Elia Batul. A CBC investigation shows the Canada Revenue Agency discovered that its system has been heavily targeted during this year's tax season. The agency has tried to downplay the issue in the Parliament, despite the gravity of the violation. It has been kept away from the public eye. The agency, however, now admits to 31,468 privacy breaches from 2020 to 2023. The figure is much higher than previously reported. The agency says hackers have exploited confidential data from H&R Block Canada to access over 62,000 taxpayer accounts. The cybercriminals have manipulated direct deposit information and filed false returns. They have gathered over $6 million in illegitimate refunds. Experts say the agency's rapid payout culture has left it vulnerable to fraud. Auditors and investigators worry the public might lose trust in the agency for safeguarding its taxpayer dollars and personal information. In response, the agency says it takes security seriously and is enhancing protections against cyber threats. Calls for a parliamentary inquiry are growing. The Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission has approved Google's $100 million plan to support the struggling news sector. The telecommunications regulator has granted a 5-year exemption from the Online News Act. The Online News Act aims to ensure the dominant digital platforms compensate news businesses when their content is made available on their services. Experts say the decision will foster stability and fair compensation for Canadian media, while avoiding tensions between tech giants and the federal government. The funding will be administered by the Canadian Journalism Collective. It will begin early next year and will be distributed within 60 days. A portion will be allocated to each news outlet based on their number of journalists. The Commission has ruled against including freelancers in the funding model. A statement from News Media Canada has urged Meta, the owner of Facebook, to follow Google's approach. News Media Canada represents hundreds of print and digital outlets in the country. A report shows food bank usage in Canada reached a staggering 2.6 million visits in March this year. The figure is 6% higher from last year and nearly double from 5 years ago. It highlights the growing struggles faced by low-income Canadians. Inflation, soaring housing costs, and inadequate social support are the main contributors to the increasing visits to food banks. There are alarmingly high demands from seniors. 1/3 of food bank users are children. Food Banks Canada CEO Kirsten Beardsley is urging the government to implement immediate assistance measures to help low-income Canadians. These include rent relief and a monthly groceries benefit. Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 100 civilians across Gaza and Lebanon within the last 24 hours. A tragic attack on a 5-story residential building in Beit Lahia, Gaza, has killed at least 62 Palestinians. Numerous others have been injured. The residential building was completely flattened by multiple airstrikes. On the diplomatic front, Israeli Brigadier General Oren Setter has resigned amid stalled ceasefire talks with Hamas. Setter was a senior member of the negotiating team. Israel is reported to have proposed a new framework that integrates previous proposals and also takes into account recent developments in the region. In Gaza, at least 43,020 civilians have been killed since October 7th. 101,010 have been injured. Israel faces a genocide case at the International Court of Justice for its actions in Gaza. In Lebanon, Israeli strikes have claimed 60 lives, marking the deadliest day for the region. 16 of the casualties have been reported in Al-Alaq, near Baalbek city. This intensified military campaign indicates a shift in Israel's strategy. The Israeli forces are moving away from targeting Hezbollah's military assets and towards civilian infrastructures. It seems the forces want to inflict pain on both the group and its supporters. In Lebanon, at least 2,710 civilians have been killed by Israeli attacks. Out of these, 127 are children. 12,592 have been injured. The United Nations and numerous countries worldwide condemned the Israeli parliament for branding the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees as a terror organization. The recently passed law prohibits the agency's operations within Israeli territory. The agency has been providing crucial humanitarian support to Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank since 1949. The new law will now cut off all support to the agency. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has voiced deep concern. Guterres says the legislation could have devastating consequences for Palestinian refugees. Palestine, China, Russia, the UK, and Jordan have strongly criticized the move. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Israeli legislation risks making the agency's essential work for Palestinians impossible. He says only the agency can deliver humanitarian aid at the scale and pace needed. UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric says that Israel continued to deny the UN's requests for food and fuel shipments to Jabalia. The Pentagon says North Korea has dispatched an estimated 10,000 troops to Russia to train for combat in Ukraine. It is a significant increase from last week's estimate of 3,000. This deployment raises concerns that Moscow's war could broaden. There are reports of some troops already moving closer to the Ukrainian border. Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh says these soldiers are probably being used in combat operations in Russia's Kursk Oblast. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol condemns the deployment as a threat to national and international security. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte labels it as a dangerous expansion of the conflict. Russian officials initially dismissed these claims. However, President Putin has not denied the presence of North Korean forces. U.S. official plans to meet with South Korean counterparts to discuss military cooperations between Russia and North Korea. Iran has executed Jamshid Sharmad, a German citizen and U.S. resident convicted of leading terrorist operations. The execution follows a death sentence handed down last year. Sharmad has been accused of being involved in the 2008 bombing and other planned attacks. Iranian media says Sharmad was also heading a pro-monarchist group known as Tundar. The media says his operations were supported by Western intelligence. Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has condemned the execution. Baerbock claims the move as an example of Tehran's inhumane regime that uses capital punishment against its own civilians and foreign nationals. Human rights advocates are decrying the lack of due process in Sharmad's case. A report by the International Union for Conservation of Nature reveals that over 1 in 3 tree species is at risk of extinction globally. The report highlights that more than 16,000 tree species are threatened. This is driven by logging, agriculture, and climate change-induced droughts and wildfires. Among the vulnerable species are the horse chestnut and ginkgo. These trees are known for their medicinal uses. Big-leaf mahogany and various ash and eucalyptic trees are also among the vulnerable species. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV.